What's going on, ParaTruthers? Welcome to a brand new episode of ParaTruth Reborn. This is a pre-recorded show on 107.7 FM New Orleans, 105.3 FM on the West Coast, and United Public Radio Network. My name is Justin, and Eric is out again today. But today, I'm going to be bringing on Jay Bachochin. He is a family man in the state of Wisconsin. He has been on a solo quest searching for the Wisconsin Sasquatch in southeast Wisconsin since 2013. Jay has been featured on the Travel Channel's In Search of Monsters and also featured in the Small Town Monsters, The Bray Road Beast. He has filmed and produced 3 documentaries of his own in the Kettle Moraine Finding Jay in 2019 and Beyond the Kettle Finding Jay 2 in 2022. He has finished post-production on his 3rd film, The Kettle Connection Finding Jay 3, premiering at the PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure on August 22nd. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in Jay Bachochin. Jay, welcome to ParaTruth Reborn. How's it going?
I'm doing good, Justin. Thanks for having me on tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited because, Bigfoot has been one of those cryptids that have been speculated more than any other cryptid in cryptozoology and in the paranormal community even. So it'll be interesting to get your take on it. And I know you've done several documentaries of your own and have worked with other projects as well. So I feel you're probably one of the best to talk to about this since you've been doing it for quite a while. But before we get going, what kind of sparked your interest in doing Bigfoot research?
Pure luck.
Okay.
Yeah. The reason why I'm going to say that is usually when you talk to people, they're always saying that how long they were interested in the topic. Now, I won't date myself, but I did see the Mysterious Monsters movie at the theater where I saw the Patterson Gimlin film for the first time. And even being that young, I looked at that and there was something inside me that was saying it looked like a guy in a suit. Okay. Now that was way back then. So I always thought that, the Loch Ness Monster could be real, over there in good old Loch Ness. And I have seen some different type of, I'm going to call them UFOs even back in the 70s that, we didn't have the drones or the type of aircraft that we have today. So there was a lot of those things that I could believe. Even with ghosts. I mean, come on, when Ghostbusters came out, who didn't want to bust a ghost?
Right.
Or at least go out and look at that. And, so the next thing you know, I've kind of had that always in my back pocket. And we started a paranormal group in 2006-ish, and then 2007. And we were just going out and investigating the ghost phenomenon. Because of it, because TAPS Ghost Hunters was on TV,
right?
Again, I look at that was that for entertainment purposes, or is this reality? Is this real? And I wanted to go out and set to find the truth on that. Not to just go out and debunk it, but really just go out there, get out in the field. This is, of course, a long answer leading up to Bigfoot, because throughout that paranormal run, we'd be at conferences, and that's where I met Linda Godfrey back in 2011 at one, and that was the Beast of Bray Road, which is literally a 15-minute drive from my driveway up to Elkhorn to Bray Road. And so I was really kind of focused on that with the team of just kind of not legend tripping, but you're going out there to discover maybe there's something out there. But at the same time, if you've ever been to Bray Road, it's just a rural road, a lot of farmland, private farmer, the areas where you can't really get out because it's all private property. Let's just put it that way. It's a public road. You can go down and cruise it. But somehow or another, one of the evenings we ended up in the Kettle Moraine in Wisconsin, and we got out because all right, if there was a big old werewolf, he's going to be trucking around here in the Kettle. And that one night in 2013, I remember it vividly, and I did capture a little bit of it, but we heard a call, the four of us, and we're all almost the same age, and we never heard anything like that. Now that doesn't mean it was the Beast of Bray Road or anything like that, but
Right.
it was something that we wanted to go online to look at all the soundboards of all indigenous animals, nocturnal and during the day, birds, animals, and they have just so many different calls, and we could not find this kind of like this vocal, and it almost sounded like literally a primate or a type of primate monkey, but yet a person as well. So again, at that point, I was like, it really didn't sound like a werewolf or anything like that, but it intrigued me to going back. And that's kind of what catapulted me of going back into the woods, because I was trying to find my own truth, going out there. And, when you start doing stuff like that, next thing you know, I'm coming across huge, prints in the snow. That's actually my first documentary that made me really kind of start to question, I wonder if this Bigfoot thing is real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the long answer to what kind of got me into it. So I kind of, by luck, looking for a dog man, kind of stumbled, into a world of Bigfoot.
Okay. Now, I have done a lot of research on the Bray Road Beast. I loved Linda Godfrey. It's unfortunate she passed away. When you were doing the research there, and you, especially since you've heard that call, do you think that maybe the Bray Road Beast is actually a Bigfoot over like a dogman or a werewolf?
That's always hard to say, obviously. No matter how long I've been doing this, there's been somebody that's been doing it 4 times as long their whole life. We still never get those answers, obviously. But the one thing that I always look at least with reports, is, especially befriending Linda Godfrey, and I was able to ask her things kind of off the cuff, kind of off the record. And these reports are so genuine that it's hard to make that up. But each one of these cases always seem to end in this fear, the utter fear, which is something different than people having a Bigfoot sighting. I think there is, fear in that as well, but this is a different type. So, with looking at something that's going to be, bipedal, standing on 2 legs like a man, just like a Bigfoot, but people are looking at these and saying no, but it looks like a dog standing up, or the closest thing they can say is werewolf. And so there's really no way to 100% say if they're related or if it's just a different phenomenon type cryptid. Personally, right, in my opinion, I don't think they're related in any way. I think they're their own breed of whatever they are, just like a Bigfoot. Nobody really knows what a Bigfoot is.
Right.
So that's kind of my take on both of that.
All right. Well, I mean, again, like I said, this is one of those topics where it's been speculated over and over what Bigfoot is, if it's real. Has your view on the Bigfoot changed over the years since you've been doing this research?
Oh yeah, 100%. When I first started doing this and found the footprints had little stones thrown at me from out of the kettle onto the ground with dead-on accuracy, hearing wood knocks, all those things were the classic Bigfoot type behavior, in my opinion, being out there, being the observer.
Right.
However, I've also seen something solid move almost as fast as if you were going to swat a fly. You're going to go swat a fly and you realize you didn't even hit it because it moved that fast.
Right.
And I saw something that was just right behind this one tree, and it was 100% solid to my eyes. And it was really hard to make out exactly what I was looking at, whether it was a head, a shoulder, a butt. I mean, who knows? But whatever it was auburn, and this was in February. So the auburn really, really stood out. And just as I looked over to it, because I saw a slight movement, looked over to the right, and this thing went from solid to a blur within seconds. I mean, it was just like and I could actually see, I always called it the auburn blur after it moved. It was just gone that quick. So in my opinion now, it's kind of, I was looking for that, flesh and blood primate. Now there's all the different types of fields, in the Bigfoot. You've got the apers, which is just a flesh and blood primate we haven't caught up with. Of course, the woo, which kind of drives me nuts because it's kind of more of a, as soon as you're on the woo, you're kind of ousted out of this club.
Right.
And it really shouldn't be, because I think all these different fields kind of need each other.
Oh, yeah.
More than anything, yeah, definitely I need the science behind it. But, after viewing this and interviewing other people that have had encounters saying, no, they know what they saw. And then all of a sudden it just takes off faster than a blur, without me even saying it. It just seemed to be something that is, now I look at it still as flesh and blood. It is leaving its prints. It's, it's throwing, it's making itself known physically. But I think it has a, I'm going to say not paranormal, but a supernatural attribute that they have. And that, I guess it always goes back to the biblical times. I always say, look, I'm a follower of Christ. I read the Bible. Now people could say, well, Jay, men wrote that. You're reading whatever they're believing. That's my truth. That's my faith. And when I'm reading these stories, even out of Genesis, where Noah's son was 800 years old. No, that was just a typo, Jay. They're exaggerating. You really have to look at it this way. So then I'm saying, okay, so I have to pick and choose what fits my paradigm out here reading this and studying it. I always say, when Jesus said, I died for your sins, did he really mean that, or did I take that the wrong way? Oh no, that's what he meant. So you can't pick and choose out of the Bible. I think that's all truth to me. Okay. That's 100% to me. So when I'm out here now looking for said primate, and now it has this supernatural attribute, I'm like, hey, you know what? Jesus was supernatural, and with what he was able to do. And that just helps me, because I'm always saying I'm always thinking outside the box. I'm trying to find my truth. It would be great to be just an armchair researcher or enthusiast and buy whatever somebody's saying. And honestly, that's the hardest part, because I could be the best, snake oilsman, this side of the Mississippi or the La Crosse River, but which I think people should take these words and, kind of take heed from what I'm saying, is without you being the observer, without you finding that, you really don't know what that truth is going to be. And that's kind of how my take has been on with the whole Bigfoot subject right now, is that it exists. I've actually had a sighting. I've experienced, I'm out there. That doesn't mean I know what it is, though.
Right.
Where they're from, what their intentions are, or whatever. But that's what I keep doing, though. That's why I keep going out. It's my journey of trying to find my truth. It's great that there's sightings all over the United States and the world. And I don't want to say that's all white noise, but it's too much to where I can't compare what's happening in my neck of the woods, literally, what's going on with me versus what's going on with you, or from where you would have heard it, if you heard it secondhand or third hand. So it's like, I try to put on blinders and just focus on what's right here. But at the same time, I'm saying a lot of people have been out there, have been doing this for years and years and years, and they can run circles around me scientifically, circles. and which is great. I just have a different belief in what Bigfoot is today.
Yeah. Well, and that I'm glad you bring up, even the separation in the Bigfoot community and cryptozoology community, because paranormal is this huge umbrella term, but we all want to stick it in our own little niche and not come together and be like, there's way more going on than we really realize.
No, 100%. That's that in the UFO field. It's paranormal ghosts, anything, because we're not all the same, and we have our different opinions, and our opinions count because we're our own person. And a lot of people try to either just go along with it, which that's hard because that's the masses, and then you've got other people that try to pull away and try to critically think. And then people would say that about, not only the Bible, but about Bigfoot or anything else. I mean, think about this. We're in that same field. We could be talking to somebody who just really doesn't care about any of this.
Right.
They don't have a spiritual side. They don't focus on this. They're going to go out and golf. That's what they're focusing on. I'm just saying it all depends on that person.
Right. Yeah. Now, for when you're going out on an expedition, typically, what does that look like for you? Like, what type of prep do you have to do?
With that, it's I generally go out weekly, and I will go out with either family or friends. Most friends of the time, but it's those type of people that are trying to find their answers too. So it's kind of like this journey that we're on doesn't begin when you're out in the woods. It literally starts before you go out into the woods. It's the planning of it. It's what we're going to do. It's that journey of getting up there and getting to our spot. I used to hike all the time, and I just kind of realized after a while that, all right, you walk for miles if you wanted to, but you're probably passing a lot of things up. Plus, I've always said, I don't think we'll ever find Bigfoot, but Bigfoot will find us, or find me, or finding Jay. And that's where that term comes from, is that I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fish, not literally, fish,
Yeah, right.
but, sit out there and enjoy the journey of being into nature, and, enjoy trying to get unplugged and seeing what happens with the observation. But preparing for it, because I've been doing this so long and this is just a regular thing for me now. I'll still wear my body cam. I'll still wear my audio unit, just kind of tuck those away so I'm kind of hands free. But there's not a lot of preparation besides, I think, getting excited, to go out and be in the woods is just, it's nice because you just kind of break away from it all. So my preparation, because I do it so often, and I'll do it throughout the year. It doesn't matter how hot it is. Like right now, if this was a night I was going to go out, like last weekend we were out. I mean, I was sweating in places that I didn't know I could sweat in. But it's like being out, and then the mosquitoes just sitting by your ear constantly, and never leaving you alone, no matter how much off or DEET you put on. But on the flip side of that, I'll go out there too when it's -12. Now my equipment really won't work, but over the years it hasn't really been about trying to capture that holy grail. After my sighting, after what I casted, to me, there's no doubt that they are there. What they are, that's where I'm still moving forward with being out there and fishing, is hoping that one day that connection will happen.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the blur and that you feel that there's kind of a spiritual connection to it. But in your opinion, is the Bigfoot physical, spiritual, interdimensional being something else entirely? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts have always been, not, I shouldn't say always. Let me back up a little bit. I mean, at first it was just a flesh and blood primate that we haven't caught up, just like discovering the silverback gorillas for the first time. And it has changed. What do I think? This is me and only me because of what my, I was going to say what my spirituality is, what my faith is, what I believe is they are 100% flesh and blood, but there's something more to them that this is the hard part, because I always say the Nephilim came down, they mated with some women on Earth, they had hybrids. Are these the offshoot of hybrids? We don't know, but I still think it's going to be kind of a physical, supernatural type part of it. It's the sighting that I had when I saw it just gliding, and I've heard that a lot in other reports, but I mean, literally, that's what it was, and there was no smooth terrain back there, and the way it moved is sometimes I think, is it even physically possible to be moving without moving? And these things look like they're almost levitating. And that sounds crazy because you find footprints. However, sometimes you find one footprint, sometimes you find a trackway, and they disappear into nothing. Nowhere for them to jump and climb somewhere else, nowhere to jump in water and swim away. They're just in the middle of nowhere. So how do you explain it? You remember you're talking about the paranormal. It's an umbrella term. Well, so are portals. I've never seen one. In theory, from what scientists tell me, that they could and do exist, but we don't know. I mean, first you have to find the source of what's leaving these tracks or doing whatever it's doing. I think once we get to that point and we've seen it ourselves and we convince ourselves within our being that they are real, now it does come to that next point of saying, how did I find, when I casted, it was 2 years ago, this, almost 18-inch footprint, and there's nothing else anywhere. It's almost like it maybe jumped way off a tree, hit the ground, and then jumped again really high to get to another tree. And that's very possible. I mean, I don't know, but that always makes me think of the possibility that they can, I don't know, saying levitation on here is just nuts on. And I hear it, and I can hear people just cringing when I say it. But when I saw this move, I mean, literally, it was moving with no effort or no bounce. And I know I was just back there, and it wasn't on a path or a road. It was the terrain. So how can anything move that way without not being on the ground?
Right.
Maybe it could. Again, my speculation. I'm Wacky Jay from Wisconsin. So really, what is it? But if you're going to ask me, that's kind of where I'd go with. Either that, or they have super long, even longer arms than we thought, and they're just holding onto the trees, and we can't see how fast they're moving their hands to pull them through, like they're gliding, kind of like skiing or swimming, and they're just moving and grabbing trees and just pulling. But from what I saw, it looked just like a I always want to say one of those Bigfoot cutouts. Okay. And I mean, it wasn't quite, the patty look, but it was definitely a head, a shoulders, and it moved through just three. I mean, I'm watching this just like effortlessly, and it just goes through, and it hits another little patch where I wouldn't be able to see it just for a second, but then still wide open through all these standing pines. But it just didn't. It came from nowhere and went nowhere, and it made no sense. But it was a gaspy moment for me, and I wasn't able to record it on my body cam because I wasn't going to wear a GoPro on my head. So if I turn my head, that's where I'd be looking. But my body cam's looking this way, and my head's to the right, because you're just kind of looking around. I don't move around like Frankenstein. And but okay, so it's like I missed that, but I did have the audio capture of my reaction. I don't ever remember being that way prior to that or after that. It's just, it doesn't even sound like me when I'm watching, and I'm almost a little bit embarrassed because it's just, you could just hear the air going out of my lungs of just gasping. And I remember it was kind of an emotional, it was emotional right after that too. So I've been doing it for, since 2013. So you'd think that, the more you go out, the more you're going to see it, because if you're going out looking for Bigfoot, Jay, you are going to see it, because your mind is going to matrix that together, that's what that is. So I'm kind of used to it, and it's been so long that took me from, I was leaving. We were actually out there for like 3.5 hours, and I'm turning around, kind of waving to the woods. Hey, we'll see you guys at the next location next week if you are. I'm just talking to them. You usually hear the raccoons laughing after I do that. and I was just getting ready to go, and sure enough, there it was. And it was just going from left to right. And I'll never forget it. It's in my head. People are like, okay, how close were you? And I'm like, at first I thought it was like a football field away, but it was a lot closer than that. It had to have been around after re-looking at footage and everything like that. I mean, it was probably maybe 60 yards. But here's the kicker. Even at 60 yards, I could see it was pure black, but I could see the detail of the head, shoulder, and the way it moved, and the arms and everything, or at least tucked in. And I can still remember that. And if that was at least 60 yards away, then it would have been pretty big for me to see all that detail.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, there's skeptics out there about pretty much anything in the paranormal, but for those that would be skeptics of Bigfoot and just dismissing it as pure myth or even misidentification, what would you say to them?
They should be skeptical. That's okay. I think my wife is still skeptical. She supports me 100%, but she's still skeptical on that. But that's okay, because it's one of those things to where if you want to find that, if you're interested, if you're really like, there is something like that, you should not sit here and try to listen to people and believe it for what it is. But even that's it with the skeptic as well. They could sit there and tell me they're blue in the face. Jay, they could shake me. There is no Bigfoot. Then they could shake me and say, Jay, there is no God. Jesus never died for you. They can do that all they want. It's what's right here that's really is where I'm at right now. So to a skeptic, hey, I would say I 100% can relate to you of what your thoughts are on that. And if you don't believe they're there, that is your right. That is your truth, that they're out there. If there's something burning you up a little bit inside to say, I really want to know, because I'm just trying to deny it, then I always can encourage people, you should. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a camera crew and everything to go out there. Just make sure you're safe. Make sure you hike with somebody, and just have a good time, just being with friends or family and enjoying the woods. Of course, being safe is number one.
Right. Now, it's a good thing you bring that up, because, I mean, there have been people that say that they've been attacked by either Dogman, Bigfoot. What are your kind of thoughts on those stories?
Like on the attacks?
Yeah.
It's those are so hard, because they're second or third hand told. So do you really know? I mean, unless you go like Linda Godfrey did up here in Elkhorn, and actually went into the police station to where they actually had a file folder marked werewolves. Okay, there's some true facts. There's some true reporting there. The people that say that they've been scratched or things damaged in that, because it's secondhand, unless I knew that person as close as I could with my own family, it would be really hard to say that each one of those is true. And I'm not saying that they're not, but it's I just think that there would be a lot more attention to this. And because I think about that when I'm out there, and even think about Bigfoot, I say, what's the difference if it was just a natural primate that we haven't caught up with yet, That means it would be wild, okay?
Mhm.
But and not as intelligent. You could say, well, Jay, a wolf is intelligent, right? A bear, a bobcat, they're all intelligent. Heck, even a mosquito is if you're trying to swat at it and knows it's going to get hit and it kind of
Right.
flies off. I'm just saying there's some intelligence to that.
Mm.
But the difference is with the attacks is the one thing that separates Bigfoot from a natural animal is one word, and that's consequence. And if I'm out there and there's a hungry enough mountain lion or cougar, and it had a chance to take me out, would it? Yeah. Would it even have regret or think about the after effect if it did attack? No, it's instinct. Just like a wolf or a coyote or a bobcat. I mean, any one of these, if they go for an attack, they don't think about what's going to happen after. They're just acting upon instinct. So if these attacks were happening with Dogman or Bigfoot, I believe that you don't see a lot of these cases because they do know what would happen if I took these people out. What's going to happen right away? You're just going to have a line search party that's going to, hit your area. It's going to disrupt your way of living. At least that's what I think, because otherwise, some of these attacks would definitely have to be a lot more. There'd have to be a lot more reported. Again, I don't know. If you're just asking my opinion on that,
Right.
that's how I would think about it, because we really don't know. And there would definitely have to be police reports and not just people saying hearsay or posting on social media that that's what happened. Okay, if it did,
Right.
it did. I mean, who knows?
Right. Yeah. Well, one thing doing this show, and even doing paranormal investigations, yeah, you have to take people for their word. You weren't there when it happened. You don't know what they saw. And even if it wasn't something supernatural, that's what they saw. Like, there was fear there because of that. Did it, the fear shape what they saw? Maybe. But you can't say they didn't see what they saw, because they did.
And that's what becomes your truth, is you being the
Right.
observer, because it could be me, you, and another person, and we can be back to back to back out in the dark woods, and all of a sudden you saw something. We didn't, but we're standing right next to you.
Right.
I trust you. I turn around and your eyes are this big and you're like, you wouldn't believe what I just saw. And no matter how much I would believe you, I still didn't observe that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I believe that's how it is. Now, a lot of times people will say, Jay, your eyes will play tricks for you. What you think, what your brain's going to be thinking, the adrenaline can make you think one way. I 100% agree with all of those, but there are times where there's things that are just unexplainable, no matter how you would look at it, because you believe it. It's not so much I'm just seeing a shadow standing there in the woods and going, "Aha, I see you." No, it's things that are there and then they just move so quick, or seeing something just glide across, 60 yards away. I know what I saw. And maybe that's why, they put people in the institution sometimes, because they're so convinced that that's their truth,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, for sure. Now, do you feel that the scientific community is coming more around to, or being more open to cryptozoology?
Yeah, I think if people focus on that, they don't try to separate everything. Like just because you go into an old house, right, and you hear a creak that nobody's up there, it's not immediately a ghost. I mean, it's just not. When you're out in the woods, just because you hear a stick break does not mean it's Bigfoot. And with people looking at the science part of it, sometimes they want to leave out the other facts that happen with it, either light orbs or something like that with a Bigfoot sighting. And they like to keep that part aside because they don't want to admit it. Maybe it's a a pride thing. I listen. I'll listen to anybody who's doing this for science all day long, and I don't sit there and look at them and judge them for, oh, you don't believe like I do. No, I just I think a different way, and it's okay, because I think we all need each other to do this, but there'll never be like that perfect harmony,
Right.
that people always talk about like that. But some of these people might be coming around, but maybe they're not going to admit it because they've denied it for so long. Unless it really just happens to them and they actually catch the best evidence and happen right in front of them, it'd be hard to show people that you've already been such a skeptic that whole time about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people would talk about how, we haven't found a body. There's no real true evidence because pictures are blurry. You can find the footprints and scat and stuff like that, but a lot of people just want to talk about how it's fake or misidentification. But do you believe that Bigfoot is avoiding us, and maybe that's playing into the skepticism, or are we just not looking in the right place, especially for those that are regularly in the woods?
Right. Maybe it's their rule on that side that they're not supposed to interact with us. I mean, I don't know. I always think about that. I'm like, you're right. There are plenty of hunters that go out there, plenty of people in the woods, and they don't see them. And there very well may be. I always think like this, trying to think of the word for it, but they can't interact with us. And sometimes when they do, they don't even realize that we're right there. And I've heard reports of that too, where it's like, I had this sighting, it ran right by us, but didn't even look at us like we would a squirrel. You're gonna walk outside, and you're like, oh, there's a squirrel. So what? You're just gonna keep going, and the squirrel's like, oh, did you see that big human? And maybe that's what they do. Again, I don't know. Whenever I hear myself talk about it, I have my opinions about it, but I really don't have an answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I'm hoping, with what I've been doing after all these years, that maybe I do break that contract, if you will. That's the word I was looking for. They have a contract to be able to make contact, because that's really what it's been about for me now for many years now. It's not about getting that glorified shot, because like you were saying with the AI and everything like that. Even if I took the best, HD footage of it right now, come on, they have the AI fakes everywhere now,
right?
And even if there was a body right there and I was able to get up close, and no matter what, you're not going to be able to convince everybody. And even when you do, you're only going to convince the ones that already kind of think the way you do. So really, what is the purpose of trying to obtain that type of evidence? People say, well, Jay, you're being a hypocrite. You wear audio and video. I do that really kind of to come home to say, hey, look, sweetie, look, you thought that I was joking about Bigfoot. Look at this, or listen to this. And with my kids who have been coming out with me since they were walking, and they just to be able to say, your dad's not crazy, your husband's not crazy, or to my family. But as far as the rest of the world, you're not going to be able to convince them. And I don't want to waste all my energy into doing that.
No, yeah. 100%, because Eric and I have said it right here on this show, even, Jesus could come back, it would be televised, everything. And people would be like, no, it's fake. Look, you could see the green screen behind him. It's all fake.
Hey, you know what? It would be like that on anything you watch,
Yeah,
I guess
right.
Anything you watch on TV that starts with N and ends with S, you don't know. I'm just saying, you don't know. And at that point, that's where you kind of have to really kind of focus on your gut instinct, that discernment that you have. Who knows when Project Bluebeam will start.
Right.
And I mean, the technology that I believe we have, especially after watching Spider-Man No Way Home, was that the second one? I'm sorry, the one with Mysterio, where he had all the drones.
Oh,
and,
yeah. Yep.
And they were able to do projections and actually use to blow things up or whatever, and they could just make it look so real. And you wonder if that's what could happen around us here, or if technology is getting that much better, people will have, not a really shaky camera, but here's my phone and look, there's a Bigfoot, and it's just all AI generated.
Right.
And so there could be stuff on there now that you just kind of scroll right by because you're like, there's another fake, another fake, another fake.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's this guy Jay, and all I'm doing is trying to encourage people to go out and find their truth. That's it. I'm not trying to convince you that you have to believe anything that I have is what it is. I'm just the living proof of trying to go find it. That's it.
Now, with doing all of this research, documentaries, doing talks, stuff like that, what's the most common misconception people have about your work?
Well, people still, say that I'm out Bigfooting or squatching. I never do that. I'm a hiker and I'm a truth seeker. So I'm kind of hiking and truth seeking while I'm out there. But I never say I'm squatching because I think the woods itself has a lot more going on to it than just Bigfoot, in my opinion. That's just trying to learn, some of the Native American ways. I don't have an ounce of Native American in me, but I do like the way that they had that connection back then versus what we have now. We just lost it. I think it's still there, but I think we have to make an effort to try to do that. So, you were saying what misconception?
Yeah.
On what
on your work,
on my work, right? And a lot of people think that's what I do is just go on Bigfoot and knock on trees and call and stuff. And I don't. I used to, but I don't anymore. And because I just kind of took on a whole different level of respect for the woods that I never thought I'd have. Now, I stayed away from the ticks and poison ivy that are out there. Get hit by the briar, everything. You're just all scratched up.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm just going to stand on a path. I don't, the mosquitoes, and I stayed away from that. Now nothing can keep me away from it, which is that draw that pulls me there. So a lot of people think that, right, my work is primarily all Bigfoot related when it really isn't. It's pretty much the gamut when I'm out there, and that's what I say. So I'm going out hiking. I'm looking. I'm documenting. I'm a documentarian. So if I'm out there and I document something, we just kind of keep learning from those. And that's the other thing. It's like an education going out into the woods now. But that's why I kind of stay in my area. I don't have all my answers. People are always saying, well, you have so much woods up there. Don't you travel over here? Why don't you go over here? Kind of finding Bigfoot, just go all over. I don't have my answers. I don't have that communication. And I feel it's here and I feel like it's close. And it's that's one of the best feelings about it. But yeah, misconception is just I'm a squatcher.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, and like you said, even though you started out that way, it's much different. And I think all researchers start out one way.
Yeah.
And then their work shapes their view and changes it quite a bit.
And I think that's part of life, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
it's what defines us. It's why I don't have regrets of anything I've had in my life, because without doing those, I wouldn't be here talking to you. There'd be a whole different scenario going on. So
right.
It's like, and that's how I am about speaking about my work. My work is going to be completely, 180 compared to everybody else that might be staying on that type of path. And I'm not knocking anybody. Sometimes I look at it saying geez, Jay, can you make up your mind and stick to that? But I can't, because everything just keeps evolving. And every time it does, I'm just like, because it is funny. I'm going to back up a little bit to where when I first was going out, and I was going out with somebody who was researching ghosts, and I'm out there, and he goes, "Do you ever think that Bigfoot is it like a spirit, a ghost, or anything?" And I'm like, "Dude, get out of here. This is flesh and blood primate city, baby. Get out of here." But and they didn't. But it's funny because, wow, I started thinking that more too. But then you get labeled the woo, and then you get shunned down like, "Oh, he's a woo guy,"
Yeah.
But but then when you're finding the physical evidence, then it's flesh and blood. And then a lot of times they're just like, "Well, then how come you don't ever find bones or a body then?" And I'm like, "Well, okay, now don't hate me for this, but back in the day, Noah's son, when he was helping him with the ark, he was 800 years old. What if these almost have what that longevity was of how they had the days of the old?" Not everybody, but it would answer a lot of questions of saying it would keep population control. And the one that I saw 2 years ago could have been the one that a Native American could have seen in the early 1700s. Just think about that. That's where I get outside the box. It's kind of like, I don't want to say like Yoda, but because let's bring it back down to the real world. And then I always think of like the tortoises and how old they can be, or the macaws, or the one that really got me was 2016, I believe it was. They're doing the crabbing, or they're doing lobster catching up somewhere in those seas up there.
Okay.
And they were bringing up one of their pods, and when they did, they noticed this one lobster that was just very unique looking compared to all the other ones. But once they cleared it all out, they saw that they crushed that lobster, but it was such a unique looking thing. And it wasn't so much that it was unique. They actually did the autopsy on it, just because it was so unique. And they found out that was the same type of lobster they were catching, but was 400 years old.
Wow.
And again, now people say, "Okay, well, Jay, you keep going away from mammal because we have to compare Bigfoot to us because it's upright, it's hairy, stinks,
Right.
Doesn't brush its teeth." I'm just saying, that it's like that. But it does make you wonder, or it makes me wonder, what other things have a longer longevity than we think. Because it's really hard for me to say there's Bigfoot out there, a juvenile. That Bigfoot there, he's probably 72. The juvenile, probably about 13 or 14. You don't know.
Right.
And again, I don't know either. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm putting anybody else down, but don't put my theory down either, because there's a very good chance that's why we don't see the bones or anything like that as well, even though they probably bury their dead. And, I've heard all that too, as the social part of it. But maybe that's why there's not a lot of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, I was just going to bring up the whole, turtles live for a very long time. There's been alligators, and yes, all of those are reptile, amphibious, whatever.
Right.
But who's to say that a quote unquote mammal couldn't be living that long? And the other part of it too is, to our knowledge, the big creatures that we know of today don't have that long of a life. However, but there's elephants that are living at least 100 years, maybe a little bit longer.
Right.
So,
right. No. I mean, it's a good way to think outside the box that way, because it's like none of us are right and none of us are wrong. It's just opinion that labels you. And that's how come I never get in a pissing contest with anybody, because it's like, you can sit there and argue till you're blue in the face. You believe what you believe, and that's okay. That's discernment. That's you trying to find your truth. And even when we find that truth, then next, there's going to be a billion more questions to get to that final and we may never get there. So then I always say, you know what? Then just step back, take a look around, smell the roses, enjoy your journey. You know, but it's definitely been one of the you know, one of the best things that I think I could have done, because it's nature, and it's getting out there, and it's observing. You have to be the observer and not observe somebody else's secondhand story or thirdhand story. And again, I'm talking about my own documentaries. That's great that people want to watch it. That's good. But I don't want people to forget that they need to be the observer to really believe what this could be to them.
Okay. Now, do you think that TV and movies is helping or hurting the search for Bigfoot, whether it's, you know, the fictional or non-fictional?
It's weird, and it's weird because there's a lot of people that ask me. I mean, I don't even watch my own documentary. I just kind of live it, put it together, then put it out. But you know, when things are on TV, you kind of, well, I guess it kind of helps because you know, it gives you that little bit of the inspiration, you know, from the shows of how they do it. I can do that too. And you know, I'll admit that's kind of how I was as well when I first started doing this. Kind of like when we first started doing ghost hunting, you know, the ghost hunters, the taps was something that we would go by and try to be. And yeah, definitely I think it's helped to where people show interest, and I think we'll talk about it more. It's not as much dogma, you know, speaking about the subject, and people tend to maybe believe you a little bit more because it's kind of just, you know, in our society, you can't go anywhere without really seeing a Bigfoot sticker on a car, you know, or anything like that. So right. I definitely think it's helped the awareness, I should say, just like anything else. And you know, as far as these other things of researchers, I think that with everybody there's a different opinion, I think it more helps the situation at the end. As long as people don't get into, you know, this whole pride thing, you know.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, I had an English teacher. I grabbed a book from the library. I don't even know why this book was in our library. Maybe we were a little more open-minded compared to other areas. But there was a Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster books in the library. And I was having a conversation with my English teacher, and he's like, well, just because a book says it's real, that doesn't make it real. And that actually, as much as I was like upset about it when he had said it, he was really trying to open my eyes and be like, okay, you know, yes, maybe it is real, but it's okay to have some skepticism and not believe everything you see or read.
Exactly. But that's our society. You think about that, you tell a lie so many times it becomes truth. And then that truth becomes the way we live. I mean, there's really no way of digging back to it. So I completely agree. Whether it's a book that somebody puts out going, wow, I believe that. No, step aside there. Maybe it's not right. Same thing with anything that we see, like I said, on TV. It does bring awareness to it, but it's 100% true. You know, you can shake your head and go, it could be or it couldn't be. All right, that's good. Every documentary that I put out, same thing. You could look at it, take it for what it's worth. And that's how come, you know, when it comes down to it, I'm glad that that teacher told you that, you know, that gave you that not everything that you read is real. I like that, you know, to kind of help you set you on your path that you're on today.
Yeah. Like I said, I was upset at the time just because it's like one of those things, like somebody's questioning you and you're like, well, how could you not? Like, somebody wrote a book about it, but it really was like, no, you're right. I shouldn't believe everything I see on TV or read in a book.
Yeah, but you know, the good thing was is that he told you not to not believe it. Just
right.
I mean, think about it. It was more to make you think about what you're reading to see if that's real or not. That's
Right.
that's a good seed to plant.
Right.
Yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right. We are getting close to the end of the show, so I want to give you the chance to tell everybody where they can find you, find the work. The mic's all yours.
All right. Well, the way to find Jay is to find Jay. Ah, come on. I had to throw that little pun in there. You've definitely find me on my website, jaybachochin.com. There you'll also be able to find me on social media, just one of them, Facebook. I used to have all of them, just Facebook. On my website, though, feel free to peruse the the different evidence that I believe, the trace evidence, I should say, that's up there. And also, I do have a storefront where you can purchase any of my movies. And actually, my third movie, The Kettle Connection, is Finding Jay 3, is premiering August 22nd this year down in PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure in Pennsylvania. It will be available on my website on September 1st. So thank you so much for having me on here tonight. And I definitely appreciate the giving me the stage to make me babble, because I do babble a lot.
Well, there is nothing wrong with that. It's important for us to get information like this out. I thank you for coming on as well, because it's, again, one of the topics that both Eric and I we're on the fence on what Bigfoot is, if it's even real. Unfortunately, we haven't been out there in the field to do cryptid research. We've done ghost hunting till we're blue in the face, and I think he and I would be ecstatic to go out on an expedition at some point.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you're ever here in Wisconsin, I'll get you out there.
That'd be awesome.
We don't do legend tripping here. We do J tripping, and I don't mean that I would trip anybody, to see who gets away first or anything. But it's true. I started out just like you, just doing the paranormal investigating, and sooner or later I just kind of shifted. Doesn't mean I don't believe in the ghost thing or anything anymore, but there's something about the woods and the tangibility that's out there that's really drawn me in,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So definitely look me up.
Sounds good. I'm going to put you in limbo for a second so I can close out. So hang on there with me, and then I'll be back with you in just a minute.
All right. Thanks.
All right, folks. Check out Jay Bachochin's work, and check out the documentaries. And it's one of those things where I want you guys to see the work and just judge for yourself. Just like we say every episode, we bring you the information, you be the judge. With that being said, I would love to hear you guys' opinion on this. And like, share, subscribe, comment, no matter where you're at. Again, this has been a pre-recorded show on 107.7 FM New Orleans, 105.3 FM on the West Coast, and United Public Radio Network. Until next week, where you'll find us same time, same channel. My name is Justin. Talk to you guys later.